a sketch comedy legend, a dramatic Emmy-nominated actor, and now an ass-kicking leading man at the box office? Let's talk about Bob Odenkirk in Nobody. Hey everybody, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my standalone, spoiler-free review for the new Universal Pictures film Nobody, starring Bob Odenkirk, in theaters now. If you are new to Dan Reviews It, welcome to my channel. Thank you for finding this video. Please consider subscribing or liking this video or sharing it or commenting. If you've seen this movie, let me know what you thought. If you are, like me, a big Bob Odenkirk fan and you were curious about this movie but haven't seen it yet, let me know that too down below in the comments. Let's talk about this movie. So like I said, I've been a big fan of Bob Odenkirk for a long time. The first time I saw him was the Ben Stiller Show back in the early 90s. And even before that, he was on SNL as a writer. He wasn't, I don't think, on the show ever, but maybe once or twice. Sometimes writers are, but he was a writer there. But of course, he gave us his stamp on the sketch comedy world with Mr. Show, his big hit sketch show with David Cross. But more recently, of course, he's known to many, many people now as this great dramatic actor with Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. So now he's on the big screen in this big action movie where he plays this dude, Hutch Mansell, a guy with a special set of skills. And how does he do? Well, for my money, the answer is phenomenal. I think he is great in this movie. I think this is one more thing he could just add to his resume, action star, because he really does pull it off here. Now, if you saw the preview for this movie and you thought, well, that is very John Wicky, well, you're not wrong. And the reason for that is the movie Nobody was written by Derek Kolstad, who is the writer and the creator of the John Wick franchise. He wrote all three movies. He created the character. So, you know, yes, there's some similarities for sure between John Wick and this dude, Hutch Mansell, played by Odenkirk. And yeah, like I mentioned, the special set of skills, there's some Taken vibes here as well, Equalizer, that whole bit. Yes, all of that comes into play, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. First, let me give you the brief premise of this movie. So basically, Hutch is this, you know, everyday family, mild-mannered guy. Every day is the same for him. And basically, he's, you know, not that happy. His wife is sort of uninterested in him. And they have a teenage son, a young daughter. But one night, these two thieves break into his house, and he doesn't defend himself against them. He doesn't want to escalate the incident, and that ends up, you know, resulting in his family being a bit disappointed in him, to say the least, including his extended family at work. He works with his wife's brother and father. So, in fact, his father-in-law is his boss. So everybody's sort of disappointed in him, but this incident really ignites something in him from his past that is boiling back up. And so he goes on a quest to find the people that broke into his house. And with that, he gets embroiled in this big Russian mob thing with a Russian drug lord played by Akizi Serebyakov. I'm sorry, I'm so bad at Russian names. Serebyakov, I want to say. But also in this film is Christopher Lloyd as Hutch's father, who's in a retirement home and seems weak, but he may not be all he's cracked up to be either. And then the RZA is here as well, as Hutch's half-brother. This movie was not only written by, you know, the John Wick guy, but it was directed by Ila Neshalar, who directed Hardcore Henry, which was, you know, like an experimental action film from 2015. It was basically a first-person movie where everything we saw was from the first-person perspective, which it was very clever and creative, but the gimmick got old because the script was kind of horrible. So here you have, you know, a better script than that, and some interesting choices with the directing. So For one thing, I really liked the action sequences of this movie. We see a lot of, up close things, but they're not to the point where, you don't know what's happening. One of my big problems with, action movies like this is that you sometimes don't really know who's throwing what punch and who's, you know, shooting the gun at whom and whatever, because everything's just so shaky cam and so up close. This does not have that. And from what I understand, Odenkirk did most of his own stunt work and fight choreography. That's what I read. So that makes it even better for me with his performance. So I liked that aspect of it. But other than that, it does get a little bit ridiculous, with the sort of tropes that we've seen in these types of movies that I've mentioned, the John Wicks and whatnot. One thing that separates it a little bit is that unlike those heroes in those movies who are basically invincible, Hutch is very vincible, if that's a word. I don't think it is, but you know what I mean. He really goes through the ringer in this movie. He gets roughed up by various people in this movie. So he is very much not invincible. And I think that adds a little bit more to his character and a little bit more to our enjoyment of like, okay, well, if John Wick enters a room, everybody's going to die when he looks at them, it's not maybe as exciting. And by that third John Wick movie, I was a bit underwhelmed because I had seen it so many times before with that same exact character. Here, it's certainly a Wick type or a Taken type, but I think Odenkirk does make it his own along with the directing and the writing of this film. I think it really helps it. Now, this is, though, another one of these kind of movies where you have to kind of suspend your disbelief. By the end, of course, you can imagine, like all these movies, there's a big shootout and, a bunch of guys and whatever coming to attack him. But, everything is set in such a way that it's like, all right, unless literally 100 things went the exact right way, we wouldn't even be in this situation, So you do have to suspend disbelief for that, certainly. But, it's nice to see Christopher Lloyd in somewhat of some action sequences. And again, we're not going to be too spoiler here, but Christopher Lloyd definitely gets his day in the sun with this movie. I don't remember seeing him in too many action sequences in his past. Usually he does the comedy. Yeah, Back to the Future had a couple of more action-packed scenes, but he wasn't really at the helm of most of them. I guess the train in Back to the Future 3. But, again, that was 30 years ago. He's a bit more frail these days. So it was interesting to see that. So overall, I really enjoyed this movie. I did. And I think a lot of that is thanks to Bob Odenkirk. But I think the directing here is good. And the writing, I think, maybe you could say is the weakest part of the film because it is so derivative of a lot of those other action sequences. But there are some nice touches here, including the mystery about Hutch's background that we sort of unravel as the movie goes on. And I liked that about the film as well. So to close up, I'm going to leave Nobody with a B, and this is in theaters right now from Universal Pictures. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. We'll have a lot more reviews to dole out as theaters sort of ramp up to being back to full openness, and studios are starting to release movies, a lot more frequently. This is, I think, the only movie that came out this weekend. But thank you so much for watching. We'll see you back here next time. Bye.